Hi, everyone. Welcome to Innovation Jam plus Social Good. I'm Corinne Gray. I'm an Innovation Engagement Officer at UNHCR Innovation, and I'll be your moderator today. So today's hangout is really the second of two live hangouts in the lead up to the Humanitarian Innovation Jam in 2015, which is going to be held at Georgetown University on January 15th and 16th. Now, if you haven't already heard about the Humanitarian Innovation Jam, it's an event that UNHCR Innovation launched last year in partnership with Georgetown University. And it's really a space to bring together practitioners and academics who are passionate about or working at the intersection of innovation and humanitarian development. And going off of last year's Innovation Jam, next year's event is going to focus more on managing humanitarian innovation. And more specifically, we want to look at what are the key challenges that we have to overcome as the sector to really develop what we call a healthy ecosystem for innovation management. And it's a really important theme just because there has been a lot of recent talk around innovation in the humanitarian sector. And innovation conceptually isn't really that new to humanitarians. But over the years, we found that we've had challenging situations, we've had to problem solve in creative ways, but we haven't really had that lack of strong practice and policy for managing innovation. And we see this through the fact that there aren't really a set of tools, a set of resources, a set of organizational frameworks. And there's so many humanitarian workers in the field right now that are innovating on a regular basis. But what we really need is for ecosystems to help them thrive. So today we're hanging out with a lot of speakers from a lot of different countries, a lot of different fields, a lot of different industries. With us we have Devon Cuny, who's the Director of Global Entrepreneurs Council at the United Nations Foundation. We have Sartaj Anand, who's a Plus Social Good advisor in India and the founder of Ego Monk. We have Esther Agbarakwe, who's also a Plus Social Good advisor in Nigeria, and she's a development communications consultant. We have Chris Ernie, who's the co-lead of UNHCR Innovation. We have Ernesta Swanepoel, who's an international environmental law specialist. And we have Karim Ben Abdullah, who's the co-founder of the Social Media Club in Tunisia, and he's a Plus Social Good ambassador in Tunisia. So Devon, Sartaj, Esther, Chris, Ernesta, Karim, thank you so much for joining us today, and we are really excited to have you with us. Before we get into discussion, I just want to let everyone who's watching know that you can actually follow a live stream, a live tweet of the event. You can follow at UNHCR Innovation, or you can follow at Plus Social Good, and their handle is at @plus_socialgood. And the hashtag for the conversation is hashtag HIJ2015. So everyone, welcome. And just given your experience and your line of work, I just wanted to start off by asking you, what's one key lesson that you've learned from fostering or promoting innovation in a humanitarian organization? Why don't we start with you, Devon?
Great. Thank you so much for having me today. It's really exciting to meet all of you and to join you for the Innovation Jam. For me, it's been that top-down strategies don't always work. You really have to begin with the end user in mind. It doesn't matter if you come up with a game-changing solution if at the end of the day the intended user won't ever adopt it. And so you really have to think about local solutions for local problems and incorporate feedback from the end user. Humanitarian work can't be retrofitted. I think it's always important to adapt and to think about and to track lessons learned. But at the end of the day, you really have to think about the people that will actually be getting this solution and really think, is this something that they will be able to use both culturally and environmentally?
Thanks, Devon. What about you, Sartaj?
Hey, so for me, a couple of points actually. So for me, I think the fact is that innovation for a lot of people makes them uncomfortable because it stretches them sort of beyond their sweet spot where they are right now. And this is important because most organizations probably need to take a call on where they want to point innovation. Is it internally or externally? And that's important because they present wildly different challenges and they're needed at different times. So even managing innovation, where you are and what adds most value to the organization, if it's internal or external, that's where I think oftentimes people get confused. Yeah.
Those are really good points. Esther, what is sort of one key lesson that you've learned from fostering or promoting innovation in a humanitarian organization?
For me, I think the key lesson is the people at the center of the crisis. Sometimes we tend to forget that innovation is beyond the organization implementing the humanitarian work, but rather the people at the center of what you're working at. And that's my experience. Because we do not look at the people at the center of this issue, whatever we're doing, we forget it. They are the key part of innovation, whatever we're doing. For me, that's the best practice. You have to put people at the center of the program you're doing.
Thanks, Esther. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, sure. So I think I'm probably going to echo some of the other points. But for me, it's about innovation can be threatening for sure. But I think the first thing is recognizing that we're all probably innovating in our own big or little ways. In UNHCR, that would be across 120 plus operations around the world with staff of around 8,500 people. So you need to be able to tap into the talent and the innovations that already exist, and that's quite a huge undertaking with an organisation such as UNHCR. But the second thing really is UNHCR innovation. I mean, we've got innovation in our title and we've got UNHCR in our title, but we don't own innovation. We're there to support the innovations and the innovators that exist within our operation. So I think the question of ownership is a really important thing to kind of tackle.
Thanks, Chris. Ernesta?
Thank you very much, Corinne. If I can just maybe on with what Esther said in terms of the importance of keeping in mind that people is at the center of innovation. Together with that is also the issue of new challenges. My line of work and my studies look into climate change displacement. And if you look around people that will be displaced as a result of the impacts of climate change, it becomes a very complicated debate where there's a lot of uncertainties. There's uncertainties in terms of definitions. Some people talk about climate change refugees, which is incorrect. There's uncertainties in terms of mandates. There's uncertainties in terms of timeframes and numbers. So it's quite a challenge to come up with innovation if you don't really know exactly what it is that you're dealing with in terms of new challenges.
Thanks, Esther. And Kareem, what's one key lesson you've learned from fostering innovation in a humanitarian organization?
If I can go, I'm going to go first. I think for me, one key lesson is the importance of communication. Sometimes we tend to forget that the way we do things, because if you look at innovation looks a little bit too, it may sound a bit too technical or too different. My experience in working in local community shows the key thing of making sure that the communities and the organization are on the same wavelength in terms of communicating what's going on and how they can communicate what is supposed to be done to relieve the situation. So my key experience is communication, because sometimes the way the people you're working for, the way they're thinking, could be influenced by their culture, could be influenced by political issues around the community, and you coming from a more different outside community, you need to find a balance between communicating what you want to do for good and what's happening around the community. And when you find that balance, you tend to have clear innovation, clear access to the community, and then you do your work you want to do. So for me, communication is very key, and that is the best practice.
Thanks, Esther. And as a development communications consultant, are there any good practices that you've seen in terms of communication models?
Yes, I think, and digital storytelling is one of those key models that we know that it can help ensure this by allowing these people to talk their own story themselves, using their own personal stories of change advocacy and all these things. So for me, I think that humanity story from the beneficiaries of the program, even from those who is also making a difference in this community, and be able to give a more holistic approach to humanitarian issues in that community. For me, I think that's very key.
Thanks, Esther. Now, Ernesta, I want to turn it over to you. We've seen, quite a few humanitarian organizations who've been adopting different models of fostering innovation amongst staff. I mean, when you think about it, what would you identify as a key challenge to creating a more systematic approach to promoting innovation in a humanitarian organization? Chris talked earlier about the fact that staff pretty much are already innovative. But when it comes to creating a systematic approach, what do you think is a key challenge to doing that?
I definitely think it's identifying clear mandates between all your role players, and making sure that everyone has exactly the same idea in terms of what it is that they need, and the challenges and the constraints within the specific institute that you're dealing with.
Thanks, Ernesta. So Devon and Sartaj, I want to move it over to you because you both work in the social entrepreneurship space. How can entrepreneurial thinking support global humanitarian work? And by that I mean it may be difficult for humanitarian workers to necessarily think of themselves as entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs, but how can this entrepreneurial mindset support global humanitarian work? We'll start with Sartaj.
Hey, thanks. So for me, at least, the way it works is that a lot of people right now believe entrepreneurship is sort of the silver bullet to a lot of social problems, right, such as youth and unemployment and stuff. So if humanitarian work sort of thinks along these lines of entrepreneurship, it should really work. And the key aspect of that is that if you are entrepreneurial, you're sort of forced to become innovative on the fly. It's almost like a side effect because you know that you take complete ownership and responsibility and the buck sort of stops with you. And that, I think, is a key trait that more and more humanitarian sort of organizations resonate with, and it comes naturally to them. So it's not really far away. So if we can establish that linkage sort of early on, that really helps. And the second thing, which is pretty cool, is if this mindset, if they do adopt it, there are three things which entrepreneurs do really well, which really works with humanitarian work also. Which is, the first is that you have to deal with immense amounts of pressure in critical times. The second is that you have to maximize the few resources you have and really make them work for you effectively. And third one is that the system is perpetually broken, and you perpetually have to sort of find innovative ways to plug holes in it to make it work for you. And these are three things that really work for entrepreneurs and humanitarian workers alike. And I think this linkage, once people get it, they naturally sort of tend to move towards entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship on their own.
Thanks, Sartaj. Devon, what about you? How do you think entrepreneurial thinking can support global humanitarian work?
Sure. From where we sit and what we're looking at right now, the problems are really big. And so, at the UN Foundation, we believe that everyone is responsible for building a better world, and this leads us to create strong partnerships. I don't think it can rely just on governments or NGOs to actually do something, but we need to bring in public-private partnerships to actually be able to rely on the resources that private companies have that can bring to bear. And I think this is where entrepreneurs can come into thinking, and that entrepreneurial thinking comes into play. And this is part of the reason we started the Global Entrepreneurs Council 4 years ago, was really the idea that entrepreneurs can play a really big role in affecting change, and influential people that can actually share their business savvy and their innovative thoughts with the humanitarian work, can do a lot of good. And so with that in mind, I mean, you're looking at people that actually can bring in flexible thinking, that have innovative solutions, and that aren't scared to push the boundaries. And I think that's important too, is really finding a structure and finding a way to encourage people to actually take chances, which can be hard when you're looking at limited resources. But that's also why entrepreneurial thinking is so important, is that You need to be able to think outside the box to address all the different challenges that we're facing. And I think you're also seeing a growing acceptance that you can do well while also doing good. And I think this is also why you're seeing more brands doing the one-to-one, because consumers actually want to see where their dollar goes. They want to be involved and they want to partake. And so leveraging that and looking at one-to-one models, I think, is actually really beneficial. And then taking that kind of out-of-the-box thinking and actually applying it across the board is extremely helpful.
Thanks, Devin. So we've talked about entrepreneurship, we've talked about public-private partnerships. I want to move into technology and how that can contribute to really sort of setting up a structured model for managing innovation. Chris, I want to ask you, how is new media, how is technology transforming humanitarian work, specifically within your community, within the UNHCR staff?
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, I want to talk about a crowdsourcing platform that we've been using in UNHCR called UNHCR Ideas. But before I do that, I want to strongly agree with what's been said in terms of partnerships, in terms of the exchanges of good practices, of core competencies, and so on and so forth. But this kind of segues into our use of our crowdsourcing platform, UNHCR Ideas, because underpinning any good partnership, underpinning the use of any great piece of technology, you have to be really, really clear of the requirements or of the challenge that you're trying to solve as a team, whether you work for UNHCR on a refugee challenge or whether you work for one of our corporate sector partners on a refugee challenge. The starting point always has to be really, really being very, very clear on what we're trying to solve, and then from there you can set very clear expectations. Now within UNHCR, we've been making the most of a crowdsourcing platform called UNHCR Ideas. It's powered by MindJet again, and we've been using this technology to kind of tap into the potential of our staff, tap into the potential of our implementing partners, our operating partners, sometimes our private sector partners, and of course the refugees, who we try and work together on challenges with. We've run about 5 challenges, starting with a big challenge with quite a discrete number of people, and then growing this platform according to the needs of the users, and every single time we run a challenge and conclude a challenge, we do a very rigorous post-mortem. This serves a couple of different purposes. First of all, it serves to tell us how the platform has responded to UNHCR and our crowd that includes refugees and other partners. Second of all, it tells us how our crowd has responded to the challenge. And it allows us, thirdly, to iterate, so that when we run another challenge, we can run a better challenge, a more efficient challenge with more ideas and with better ideas that hopefully will translate into good projects and a really positive impact for the refugees. So all that to say, we've been tapping into one particular piece of technology, which is crowdsourcing, and it's been a fascinating journey. We've just concluded about a year, maybe 15 months of trying out this technology on our crowd, and we've had, I would like to say, some very, very positive results, most of which are being tested or are in the prototyping phase at the moment, and to be tested in the field together with the populations that we serve.
Thanks, Chris. Now, Sartaj, I know that Ego Monk sort of does a gamification strategy, and I wanted to ask, in your experience, does a gamification model work in terms of encouraging and rewarding entrepreneurship within humanitarian organizations?
Mm-hmm. So I think in this context, I think gamification fits perfectly for sort of leveraging 2 things. One is effort, and the second is creativity. So when I talk about effort, I'm saying how can all of us work harder together? How can we put in more effort together? And this really helps motivate people for that. And the second part, which is creativity, is how can all of us work better together? How can we sort of remove inefficiencies or cut down on meetings? How do we sort of make the system work better together as a team? And the way gamification models work is that they usually motivate people very, very frequently, either through rewarding them, say through points or badges, or even having a simple leaderboard at work, so that they eventually stop seeing work as work, but more like a quest, like a game. Because what we found is that if you gamify the work environment to a certain degree, it gets to a point where they say, okay, this isn't real. This sort of make believe, and it sort of gives them that creativity that normally work environments lack. So I think if we view gamification for leveraging these two things, they can really help impact employees.
Thanks a lot, Sartaj. Now, Kareem, over to you, and I have to apologize. You didn't get a chance to answer the very first question. So if you do want to answer by letting us know, what is the one key lesson that you've learned from fostering or promoting innovation in a humanitarian organization, I do want to give you the chance to answer that.
Thank you very much. I think that the most valuable lesson that we did learn from innovation in humanitarian organization is that those who don't embrace innovation, who don't adapt, who don't get new tools, get new that innovation engaged in their process, they tend to vanish, or they tend to be less efficient than those who really are aligned with innovation, because it's very important for an organization to keep up, being innovative, keep up, bringing innovation in the top of its, priorities, so it can, compete with, that's not just with other organizations, but compete, with the special, special needs, special, circumstances. Thank you.
Thanks, Kareem. And I wanted to also ask you about, new media and technology, and how do you see that transforming humanitarian work?
In Tunisia, the social media, the new media, they transform completely, and that's completed by like 180 degrees the whole humanitarian field. We've seen people working. We've seen many organizations that base their communication in and out thanks to social media, and it's working out very, very good here in Tunisia. I mean, I did see, I get people coming and ask me question or reporting, reporting stuff through social media more than they can do. They can do through emails or through telephone. Just yesterday, I got a report from a friend who about a woman and her baby that have issues, and right away I did contact again through Facebook a president for some of an association that did take over the case, and this is it's just awesome, because all this take 10 seconds to solve humanitarian case. So what about other cases? And I see this every day. I see this in every association, organization here in Tunisia. Social media is a blessing for organization, especially that it doesn't need expensive resources, or it needs just connected computer or a tablet or smartphone, and it's working out. It's working very good here in Tunisia.
That is actually quite amazing. Do you also see humanitarian workers using social media to maybe share good practices?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I did see all kinds of humanitarian association here, going from the national, international ONGs to the smallest organization, working, spreading the word through social media, through Facebook, Twitter, even Instagram, every day, and that's making people aware of stuff like like crises. I got a very small example that it's a small example, but it's a big in the meaning. 2 years ago, we were in a city in Bardo, and it was like 30,000 people in our sitting, and the guys from the Red Crescent, the Red Crescent is organization for first aid organization, and they were tweeting about the position of their ambulance. So whenever if someone was sick or was injured, because there was some few clashes, we knew exactly where to take him, and this is really good. If you see another example, more important, we got thousands of refugees in South Tunisia of workers who came from Libya, and the humanitarian organization there, they were reporting what was going on live. Also, I got another example of another city where the organization were asking people for what they need exactly in food or water or medicines, and people did respond in social media, and they were helping them right away. So yes, I think that the new media is working out very good here in Tunisia through many examples.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Kareem, and thanks to everyone for sharing. Before I wrap up, is there anything that any of you would like to add? Okay, I'll take that as a no. So yeah, once again, thanks to each of you for your insights, for your sharing on what we think is a really important topic. And thanks to everyone who's watching for joining us today. Like I said, this is the second of 2 live hangouts that we'll be having in the lead up to the Humanitarian Innovation Jam in 2015. And we'll actually be having one final live hangout from the event, so definitely stay in touch with us to get more information about that. If you'd like some more information about the Humanitarian Innovation Jam, the website is hij2015.unhcrinnovation.org, and we'll actually be posting that on the page for this Google Hangout. The conversation definitely does not end here. We also have a crowd hall, and we'll be posting some follow-up questions, and you can have a chance to maybe ask some deeper questions of some of the speakers who are on this hangout today. We'll also be posting that link to the crowd hall. And yeah, feel free to jump in, share your own insights with us, share your own experience on managing humanitarian innovation. And once again, thanks to each of our speakers, and thanks to you for watching, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.